Hello, everyone. Sarah with sarahpacaro.com. Today we're talking about trust. Ooh, that's a big word. It's big but small. Isn't that funny? Less is more, big is small, small is big, all those things. And there's a level of trust, a depth of trust that until you get to, you won't. Did you get that? There's a depth of trust that until you get to, you won't. For a lot of us, trust seems like a really fun concept, a good idea. Yeah, I trust you. And then we're like, and it just seems like this funny and silly little word, an important little word. I think we would all agree that trust is important, especially if you've been in a relationship where that has not been present or that's been broken. And the greatest impact and biggest damage that occurs is the damage within ourselves, trust within ourselves. Then we begin to second guess and question everything. And this shows up, it affects and it influences everything, truly everything, every relationship. And it's incredible because I've been in business now for many, many years, the business of transformation, the business of restoration, and have really, really, truly trained with the world's best. I know the people who are in my groups can agree to that. Go like this, nodding their head. Yes. Yes, I see you. And it's more than just that. It's more than, speaking of my business people here, it's more than just a business in a box. It's more than just buying a business program or really investing in something outside of yourself to make a change for yourself. And a lot of us do that because investments are good, right? Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, sometimes they're this way, sometimes they're that way. And all of us can attest to the journey that it's up and down, but we desire to be up and down on the way up. The journey in all of our relationships with close, personal, intimate people, with our friends, with our colleagues, with our business, with ourselves, all of these relationships. And all of them have a certain level of depth of trust. Trust requires a certain depth in order for it to really be met. And a lot of us don't trust. And that's affecting all of our relationships. And in the relationships that we have with our business, with our friends, with our personal peeps, we feel this. And we feel that there's some there, but it often feels like it's not enough of it there. And where does this come from? Well, where does everything come from, right? We can spin around the question to answers to that question forever and ever. But it really is a certain depth of trust within us that needs to be felt in order for it to be felt, to really deeply trust, to transform the trust into a knowing that's unwavering. I was listening to a podcast this morning that was talking about the power of storms and their ability, right, to destroy. We know that storms can destroy, but it depends on the circumstances, situation, and who you are in the story. Every story is filled with different characters. Every character has different characteristics, and there's oftentimes a plot twist. And oh, I didn't see that coming. Like super exciting. And that's the same. The same is true with ourselves, with our lives, with our relationships. And in this podcast, it was talking about the power of the palm tree, and how in storms many other trees will get uprooted and will break off and fly off, but the palm tree, and if you've ever seen hurricanes, I almost said tornadoes. I don't think tornadoes are in Florida. If you've ever seen hurricanes, you've seen the power of the wind and water, and the strength of it and its ability to bend the palm tree so much so that the top of it almost touches the ground. And throughout the storm, it remains in that position for hours. It looks like there's no way that that's going to remain. There's just no way. Like, look at it. It's like, was like this, all big and beautiful. And then now it's like, boop, and the wind is just pushing against it so powerfully, so strongly. And to the natural observer, to the eye, we're like, there's no way. That tree's a goner. And after the storm, it goes boop, right back up again. And we're like, what the? Wait a minute. Didn't the storm just come here? All the other trees have been knocked over, broken, blown away. And here this palm tree is just like, boop. I'm sorry, what storm? Come again? It doesn't question its ability. It trusts in its ability. And why is that? Because of what's within it. It is because of what's within. It can bend, it can move, it's flexible. And a lot of times, our trust is so inflexible, it's so fragile that it feels like it's so easily broken. And once it's broken, how do we put it back together? And then we have this identity of I'm broken, so everything I touch turns to brokenness. And when you've gone through the storms, when you yourself are that palm tree and you've bent over, that's kind of funny. Not going there. When you bent over and you withstood the storms, withstood the test of time through the storms, however long you were in the storm, because a lot of times in the seasons of our life, it can feel like we're in the storm forever, like it's never going to end. And I can attest to having gone through this in so many ways in my personal life, in my business, relationships. And when you come out, you come through all of that, like all the knowledge, all the lessons, all the power, all the wisdom. It doesn't leave you. But a lot of times we feel like we can't trust in it, or our trust depth isn't enough. And it's always around this context, this construct of it's not enough. And then we look for evidence to prove that. See, it's not enough because if it were, then this. And then we look to pointing to having a different outcome than the one that we have, instead of taking the one that we have for what we have and saying, this is enough. I'm growing. I'm going up and down on the way up. As one of my mentors says, I love that metaphor, that analogy, that truth. It resonates with me deeply because the truth and the trust that I have within myself now to make it through the storms resonates with me deeply. And that's what's required. That truly is what's required to withstand the storm. And I've started working with people in their businesses, people who've gone through RTT and ACH and MACH. And if you don't know what those things are, that's okay. This just part isn't for you. But to really, really deeply trust in yourself, to show up in your business, to show up in your life, to show up in your relationships, and understand that just because you bent did not mean you were meant to break. It was meant to strengthen you and grow you and deepen the trust that you have within yourself and the things that you're doing. Even if on the outside looking in, it seems like nothing is happening. You think about a seed and it's planted, and you sit there and you stare at it, and you're like, come on, chop, chop, let's grow, come on, come on, come on, come on. What's the problem? What's the matter? What is taking you so long? We've got things to do. We've got things to harvest, right? But there's time. There's an element of time included and involved in this. There's also more than time, an element of trust included and involved in this. And many of us have shallow roots of trust. We lack trust. And so we just go from one thing to the next, one thing to the next. And especially in this context of developing, strengthening, and growing your business, growing your relationships, the trust within yourself, that the best is yet to come, that it gets to be good and better, that it gets to be this and something better. And what's not meant to be for you won't find its way to you. And if it does, it won't impact and influence you in the way that breaks you, like those other trees in the storm. It will strengthen you, it will deepen you, it will develop you, and it will grow you. And it really is this beautiful experience and deep internal connection with yourself and with trust and with the depth of trust, and getting to that place where you have it and nothing can take you away from it, because nothing can take you away from what you have, because when you have it, it's yours, it lives within you. And so there's so many elements of this included, specifically in all relationships, the relationship that you have with your business. And I've gone through this myself for many, many, many years. I mean, huge transformations. And it's interesting because I'm in the transformation business, transformation of the unconscious minds, which lead to the conscious thoughts and processings and actions and things that you need to do, and not necessarily do, because if you don't do them, you lack. But some ways it feels like that. And you can listen to all the people out there and feel so confused about what's in here. So what's in here, the depth of trust, is really what matters most. And when you have that, everything else goes the way it's supposed to go, the time it's supposed to go, the direction it's supposed to go. And you really feel filled with this weird sense of not worrying and truly trusting. And a lot of the mentorships I've been in talk about collapsing time, or quantum leaps, quantum physics, quantum energy, around the collapsing of things that took other people 10 years, 5 years, take you 2 years, 1 year. And it's like, it's just this thing that doesn't make sense. And a lot of us desire that, this rapidness, this exponentialness, this thing that doesn't make senseness. In the spiritual world, there's this external power, but we also really believe that we've got the internal power within us, that it lives within us, it resides within us. And part of that, an element of that, is the deepening of trust. And so when we have that within ourselves, it seems like everything outside of ourselves, it just works the way it's supposed to work. So if you're seeing this, if you're finding this, and whether it's in your personal relationship, your business relationship, financial relationships, whatever it is, if you really think about it, the context of everything, everything is a relationship. And everything requires a depth of trust that regardless of what happens to the construct of the relationship, the trust remains. The trust remains within yourself, within your faith, within your knowledge, within your knowing, within your being. So when you're ready to deepen that, I would love to connect with you. And you can find out more by clicking the link below at sarahpacaro.com. Till then, I love you. I love you. I love you. That is all for today. Bye for now.